Anyway, hello everyone. I'm going to restart. Thank you so much for pointing out that I was muted. Oh my goodness. It's been quite the morning. Super, super busy. I, as you can see, have a new stream starting soon countdown timer that was done with lovely design help from one of Consent Academy's volunteers, Chris. Big shout out to them for all of their amazing hard work. And as you can see, we also have some new little things promoting our social media uh, and our website. So our website is consent.academy. Let me know if the thing is a little too small to see, I can fix it. And then on Patreon, we're at Consent Academy and also on all social media, not just Twitter. Um, Yes, so anyway, it's been a really busy day. My cats have been like so hyped. Hi, Barantor. So hyped today that it actually like really overstimulated me. They were just like running around and super hyped and like jumping everywhere and knocking things off. And I played with them a lot this morning, like always. And so I don't know what was going on with that. I just really don't know what the deal was. But anyway, I'm gonna need a couple seconds to get everything ready. I haven't even opened Steam because that's how busy I've been. I also tried to deal with some of the latency issues we've been having by moving my router into this room, and it was gonna directly plug into it because I have like ports to plug in my modem like to the wall right in here, but it seems like they're not active because everything was set up and it was fine, and then I couldn't get anything going, and I didn't realize until like 20 minutes ago because I was doing so many other work things. So thank you all for bearing with me. It's been an intense day, and yes, Ashiruni, cats will be cats. They are enjoying themselves. I try to never get mad at them for being kittens and just like being hyper and having desires and, having moods, right? We all have moods sometimes. We all have days where we're like, yeah, I'm like doing things really well. I'm enjoying myself. Things are great. And other days where there's like, I cannot move my body enough today. Um, and I think it's one of those days for them. Um, And yeah, I think it will help a lot having a direct connection, Barontor. But the jack in my wall in this room doesn't seem to work. I'm probably going to have to call the uh, internet company and see if they can fix that. But otherwise, the other thing is I will probably just try to get a longer Ethernet cable. I don't like to have really, really long ones because they tend to get kinked more and damaged and all of that. Uh, yeah, it was quite the morning. The typical ADHD morning when you're like trying to do things and things are going rough and it's kind of a mess. And it's a good day though. It's a good day. And shout out to Academic Foxhole / Trooper SJP for letting me promote my stream on his Discord server. There we go. I was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Discord server. Really appreciate that. That really helps me out a lot, being able to share all of that information with people and let more people know. And to everybody who is following or, supporting us in any way, thank you so much as well. I'm going to take a second. I want to get my notes up for the stream today. But it's gonna, when I open up Firefox, it's gonna open up like the 50 million windows I had open. So it's only 2 windows. It's actually not 50 million. But it'll just take me a second to get my notes up. Like I said, it's been a day. But it's been a good day and I'm having a good time. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you. I'm really trying to, also, an announcement. Since I finally finished filling out the affiliate paperwork, I think there are going to be commercials. I have no idea how this works. Genuinely, I have no idea. And if it ends up being weird or a big problem, I'm going to see if there's a way I can turn them off. I'm pretty new to this. So thank you for being on this adventure with me. This is a lot of tabs. Too many tabs. I have too much going on in my day. I have so many things I'm like trying to get accomplished. every day, and it's too much. It's too much. I mean, it's amazing and it's a good problem to have, like to have all these things that you're passionate about and that you want to be doing. And also sometimes I'm like, whoa, whoa. All right, what did you say here? Ashiruni. Uh, if you grab one of the rubber floor mats to run the cable under, the longer ones tend to do all right. I've got a 30-meter one running back to my router in the other room under a mat and walk over and around it quite often. Yeah, yeah. Related, I would love all of your advice. I am really, really, really at a loss for like how to keep my cats from sitting on my laptop. I tried putting it under, I have like a monitor raiser that I got from IKEA that's got like a little drawer and stuff. And I took the drawer out and I put my laptop under there, but it still sticks out a little bit. And then the cats were just sitting on it and like bending the USB connections and like making it all a mess. And I've tried putting like a heating pad, like, like ones you can use for like your muscles and stuff, like on my desk and having it on pretty regularly so that they could like sit on that instead. They don't seem to care. They prefer the laptop. And I'm really just trying to figure out a way because having it under this thing was actually really difficult to turn my computer on and to like deal with stuff and get at the ports and everything. I don't know. Anyway, just a thought. If you have any advice on keeping cats off of keyboards, like I've seen these cute like acrylic things that you can put over your keyboards, but I can't actually find them for sale that seem reasonable. They seem kind of like someone made a cool picture of it in Photoshop or someone like printed themselves one once and then everybody like pretends to have that be what they're selling. But every Amazon one I found or on other websites, people are like, this is fake, this didn't work, my cat stepped on it and it broke immediately. I would love that for on tour. I would really love that because I love my cats and I don't like to have to like shoo them out of the room and close the door because I think that they don't know what's happening and they might even think I'm mad at them. uh, and or like cats are very sensitive, right? People think that they're super aloof and like standoffish and stuff, but in reality, they're very sweet and they're very sensitive. And they're really easy to like make sad, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. They pick up on our moods more than we give them credit for. Anyway, Shiruna, you said, general rule of thumb, always move them and boop them, express anger and tone when they do. Repeat that every time they do it. Cats can be trained, but they like pushing buttons, so you've got to be consistent and express that doing that thing is bad. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I tried to be very gentle with these cats because they were also really traumatized when I got them. And I want to be super, super careful with that because they had a lot of fear of like us coming near them or like big sounds or us raising our voice or they were just really sad and stressed. And so I try to be really, really careful with them. Yes. So how's everybody doing today? I've been talking a lot about how my day's going. I would love to know how all of you are doing. Yes. All right. My notes are loading. Looking good. Looks like I got everything I need. We're going to talk more about the growth Ponzi scheme today and how that relates to Joja Mart in the game, but also just sort of like how IRL or in real life, we have these ideas about infinite growth. We talked about this a little bit last time, and we didn't get that deep into it. We have these ideas about infinite growth, and we think that sort of like building up these like strip malls and stroads. Key term, one of my favorite words that for something I hate, which is a strode. Stroads are things that are really dangerous. And I'll talk about it in a second because Ashurani just told me how's it going. All right, weirdly, with a question mark. Had an early morning and have been kind of spinning my wheels. Also, infinite growth scheme. Hell yeah, I love this topic. I'm glad you love this topic. I really appreciate all of you who come and watch these streams because I know I'm a big nerd. And it's really nice to have like a safe space to just be like as weird of a nerd as I really am and goof off with all of you and just be generally quite silly about things. I want to see, how does this window sizing look on the stream? Yeah, well, anyway, early mornings and spinning wheels. Yeah. Hopefully it's not something that causes you stress though. Hopefully it's something where it's like, it'll be cool once you get started on it. All right, let's load and get back to the farm. Let's get the day started. Let's get it started. Ariel, we're going to Castle Farm. Look at this Provence farm money. It's just obscene. This is the farm I'm playing with my partner, Charlie. And yeah, it's pretty funny. Also, how are you doing today, Barontor? I'm gonna turn on. I have a little, sorry if this beeping is gross. I have a little like a essential oil diffuser humidifier on my desk, and I decided to use it today. Okay, my pickaxe is ready. Yes. Okay, that's very exciting, and it's Queen of Sauce Day. Pancakes! Yes, delicious. Though I prefer when my pancakes have apps. Clear and sunny tomorrow. Rather be doing something, but spinning your wheels is your new norm while I wait for stuff at work to stabilize. Oh yeah, what's going on with work needing to stabilize? What's this? I need a pale ale. Yeah, I can get you one of those. Look at this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna save some of these hops. Any of this ready to harvest? No. I can't wait till we can make sprinklers in this game. It would be really nice, being able to just automate some of this. I mean, you know, I want to also recommend a couple of the books that we've been talking about on this stream again. And I do promise that whenever I get over this sort of like procrastination around it needing to be perfect, I will post about these things on the interwebs. All my sources and the books I recommend and everything. Survival burgers, yes. I'm gonna put these in there. Do have a sprinkler, which is nice. I'm gonna take the Joja cola and this in there. Kind of getting full up, huh? Huh. What else? Where are all the berries? Did I actually eat like all of those berries from last time? I think I did. Ashrina, you said it's just the shipping industry. Yes, I know, lots of societal issues with that one. But there's not a lot of boxes getting shipped through my site right now. Yeah, the shipping industry, I mean, shipping is important. We, you know, need to move things around the world. And it's when there's delays and stuff, that can be a real problem for everybody. That can just be like, you know, because we don't have more like local infrastructure for things like agriculture anymore. Everything is sort of just in time shipping and all that other stuff. And it's very interdependent web that we've got. So like shipping is incredibly important, and like on time shipping can, and sometimes be literally the difference between life and death. Like if you need medications and they have to come on time and you don't get them on time, it can be a big deal. So the shipping industry is important. I mean, with any of these things, like I'm definitely an environmentalist, but the perspective I take on environmentalism is very much like we are animals and every animal influences its environment. And we just have to be thoughtful about the kinds of impacts that we're having and try to reduce negative impact and like be, what's the word? Modest, I guess, humble about it. Uh, and so, like, things like mining, to a certain extent, we're gonna need mining for a long time. Like, even renewable energy sources, right? We need the mining industry to create, to get the materials, the raw materials that we need in order to produce all of the things like the batteries and the solar panels and that's one of the other things. Like, I'm obviously, not obviously, I am a big fan of things like solar panels. And at the same time, these things have a lot of problems with them. I forgot my sword. I knew I was going to forget something. I got to go back to the farm now. Okay, like the solar panels, right? Like they're really good. And the thing is, though, is they don't last forever. Eventually, the sort of sensitive material in them that reacts to the UV light is not effective anymore, and those things have to be disposed of. And solar panels are quite toxic to the environment, and they're very difficult to dispose of in a way that's not dangerous or unsafe or unhealthy. So it's all kind of the same kinds of questions people like to ask about things like nuclear power. We should ask about all kinds of power, which is how are we going to manage the waste that's being created by this process? And it's not to say that the process is wrong or bad, but like we still have to have an answer to that question. And anyway, I got my sword. I'm going to go to the mines. I didn't even check the spirits today. It's a rainy day and I need more mining things. Just so then also things like the mining industry, right? Like this is all part of the solar energy is like you need mining, you need distribution, you need lots of infrastructure for it. Oh wait, it's faster to go this way, I think, unless you get stuck in the wall like I did, and then it's not faster to go this way. Look at this. It must be a pretty lucky day. There's a lot of forageables. That was a froggy. That is exciting. Froggies. Froggies. I forgot. Oh my goodness. I forgot to bring torches. Okay. We'll see what happens. So some of the books that I like to give a shout out to, one is a textbook. The first one I want to share is a textbook. It's quite dry. It's definitely a textbook, right? Like it's not meant to be like light afternoon reading kind of stuff. And it's Energy and the Wealth of Nations. Especially the second edition is much better because the first edition reads like a preprint, and most of the like charts and images that are really essential to understanding things like the net energy cliff are in black and white, and so then they're sometimes kind of useless and you have to kind of like look it up online, that particular chart. So I recommend the second edition. You can get this on Amazon or better yet like local bookstores and stuff. It is also likely to be at your local library, and with most books, if you don't have it at your local library, you can request it, and they might not be able to get it for you right away. They can do interlibrary loans. There's Whole World Cat, which is this database where you can search for, in the whole world, interlibrary loan potentials, and you can see like where could your library get a book that you want from another library. Books do a lot of loans to each other, or libraries do a lot of loans to each other. So that's something I really recommend, Energy and the Wealth of Nations. It's the basic sort of biophysical economics tome, which is explaining that we should view things like money and the way we organize the economy based off of energy from like a physics perspective. And that's like really important in order to sort of plan our economies well and plan. I'm gonna have to fight this slime. Oh, nope. Haha, I didn't have to fight the slime. And look at that, a torch. I'm gonna move that torch right up here. I'm gonna do this way. Looks good. Okay. Yes. So anyway, Energy in the Wealth of Nations really talks a lot about energy return on energy investment. So for every joule of energy you spend to get energy, how many joules do you get in return? Now, I do want to stress, like, sometimes I put numbers out, and unless I'm actually quoting for sure, please do not just, like, take whatever number I said and believe it, because for me and my ADHD brain, numbers are more of a representation of how I feel about things. Like, if I say something took me 10 hours, it probably didn't actually take me 10 hours. It might have, which I'll usually just be like, yeah, it definitely took me 10 hours. But otherwise, that 10 hours is like more of a representation of the emotional quality. And that goes with this stuff too. You know, I'm not aiming to be like a, no. I was trying to eat. And then I left the mine. It's okay. The stairs should still be there. I can go along quickly. It'll be fine. Oh no. I was wrong. Well, gonna get lots of fighting experience. Hopefully I don't die. All right. Sorry, I'm just concentrating on this. I will keep telling y'all about biophysical economics in just a second when I'm not concentrating on fighting. What? So many. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Yes. It's going okay. And then I got foods I can eat. I'm gonna eat this spicy berry. Yeah. And I'm gonna not eat it near the ladder so I don't actually like send myself back outside. Ugh. Reverend Mort, hello. Thank you for chatting. What did you say? I'll tell you more about economics. I feel like you're back in grade school. Yes, I love it. How's it going today, Reverend Mort? Look at all of this iron. This must be like a pretty lucky day. Oh man, and my upgraded pickaxe can maybe pick through those other dudes. Good week of nothing before more studies. Nice. What are you studying? Are you studying economics? Because that would be kind of funny. Woo. Oh, full psych major. Nice. Yeah. I think psych is a really good undergraduate degree in general, even if you don't go into psychology in the end, as long as the psych department at your university is pretty good, because there are some bad ones, and there's some ones like, yeah, there's some bad ones. But I think it's a nice undergraduate major. I don't know if you're doing an undergrad, you might be going to grad school, but I think it's really good because it gives you sort of like a general understanding of sort of like your own self. And I think it can be really good for like empowering people to have more agency and autonomy and make more choices about things like their mental health and like understanding sort of what we know or think we know at least about what people need in order to thrive and to like be happy and live a good life. And so I think it can be really nice for that. Yes, I made it to another floor. That's a big accomplishment for today. I feel so excited. Woo, another floor. Another step on the elevator. I'm gonna go fight this slime. Let's do it. Let's get it. Yeah, get it. Yeah, get it. Sweet. Yes. Good. Okay. So, energy and the wealth of nation, biophysical economics. Ashuruni, you said, let me read what you said. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to be said about the energy industry overall. The amount of investment into that sector has created some really solid outcomes in energy storage and solar cells. Once we can stabilize it a bit better and bring it to the commercial markets, there'll be some really good changes in store. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that, I think I mentioned last time on the channel that if you go on the websites of a lot of fracking companies and look at their information, they will fully admit that fracking is not, it's net energy loss, actually. It takes them more joules of energy to get 1 joule of energy. It takes more than one. So it's a net energy loss, which I think means that, I feel like we shouldn't be doing that because I think energy, especially fossil fuel energy, is like, it's very important. It's a very, very precious resource. It's got the highest return on investment per joule. And to me, my thought is like, we really need to save that for things where like we have dire need for lots of energy very quickly, to say like, I don't know, whatever challenges humanity is going to face in the future. And so I feel like that energy should be really getting saved. And I get kind of sad when people are using it in these very lossy ways. And, like sometimes there's this idea, well, like the technology is likely to improve, but it doesn't necessarily, like that's likely with like smaller nuclear power plants. Like this is becoming a thing. Mercedes-Benz, the company, is actually like one of the world leaders in developing these like smaller, stabler, more efficient nuclear power plants. But there's still the whole issue of like, we only have 80 years left at current usage of, this is actually like from Phys.org. 80 years was the estimate, I think like in 2006 when the paper was written. But what was I gonna say? I totally lost my train of thought. Right there, just went. Yeah, so I like nuclear energy, but we're gonna run out of it. And yes, I lost train of thought. I got distracted. Anyway, I definitely agree. There's also some really promising new battery technology that okay. I want to back up. I'm going to give some context. I am not the kind of person who thinks that technology will quote unquote save us. And I'm actually the kind of person who really thinks that we should prepare for the future with the assumption that technology will not save us. We're not going to do things like tackle climate change without having to make any substantial changes to our way of living. In some writing, we could talk about like being in the imperial core, which would be in most very wealthy nations that have a lot of reserves of things like oil. Our way of living is unlikely to decline very severely. There could be food shortages because our food network is so interdependent, but in places like North America, that's not as likely. And especially if we become very hostile to climate refugees, people in the sort of imperial core of the world, we're not likely in our lifetimes to really see our standards of living decline because we're going to be able to keep up the facade that everything's the same for a very long time. You could argue that we already have seen it in terms of like rising inequality, especially, class differences and, inaccessibility of things, but that's being driven by slightly different forces and is relevant to climate change discussions, but isn't quite the same. And I think that we should, for this idea of thinking that technology, we should prepare as though it won't save us. We should assume that it won't. If it does, amazing. Like if we just like figure out, forever energy, we get like some fancy new type of nuclear power that's completely safe and cold and doesn't require like whatever. Like it could happen. Sure, it could happen. And we're looking at research into generating nuclear power from other types of materials. People are looking at things like mining asteroids, but that's going to be a really intensive process and that's going to be really far off. And our energy needs in the world as it is like so huge. And so I think we should focus on things like degrowth. It's not the sexiest term. I know a lot of people hear degrowth and they're like, that sounds terrible. I don't even, just the like, we have such a positive association with the word growth, personal growth, right? Growing up, you know, growing old together. We have these like really positive ideas around growth. And some of that's marketing. Some of that is like PR and hype to really make us think that things like economic growth and energy usage growth are like positives. And they can be, but they're not without repercussions. Okay, that's my little spiel. Oh yeah, the batteries, I forgot to mention. There's a cool battery technology using rust. Making material rust and then unrust as the way to store energy more long term. Very cool. Reverend Mort, you wrote Swedish, so the equivalents aren't quite equivalent to America, but yeah, goal is to go for university degree in psychology, want to work in the mental health and sex ed. Nice. Yes. Sex ed, definitely. I hope that you enjoy this channel because we also talk a lot about sex ed. You should check out our other video streams, especially our like chats about consent. I'm going to re-upload some of the old videos. I finally figured out how Twitch works a little bit better. And so you can see we talk a lot about sex ed. And then a few weeks ago, my co-director and I, we did a stream about like consent and ethics and porn and also like Disney and how Disney has influenced us and our development of our sort of like sexuality and our ideas about ourselves. And then we're actually going to do a part 2 this weekend. We had another group lined up to interview, a group called Pleasurable, and they do disability sex education and advocacy, but they needed to reschedule. So we're going to do a part 2, and I'll keep you posted when Pleasurable comes up. But I hope that, yes, okay, I'm glad you caught the one about porn. I think it's a big topic. There's a lot of shame around admitting that you're like a sexual creature or a sexual being. Like a lot of us try to pretend we're not, and it's just silly. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to mining for a minute. I need to smash some rocks. It sounds good. It sounds like a good time. Gosh, sometimes when I'm playing video games, I'm like, I really wish that I were as fit as the character in the video game. Like just thinking about how like nice my shoulders would look if I were just like smashing rocks all day. But I wish I could get that benefit from playing the game, not actually having to do the thing myself. You know, which is the thing everybody wishes for. Yeah. I think that improved my foraging. Yeah, foraging. Not the best usage of the survival burger, maybe, but hopefully I'll make use of it. I just want to get down a few more levels. Oh my goodness. Only be possible if I can actually mine things. Yeah. Okay. So, Energy and the Wealth of Nations. Great book. I can't recommend it enough. Donut economics is another big one. That one's really good because it's very approachable and accessible in terms of like, you don't need to know a ton about economics or like different theories of economics or anything to read it and to get a lot out of it. Oh no, this area is overrun with monsters. Oh goodness, let's see how we do. I really gotta get them pinned up against a wall, because otherwise this is just difficult. Face the right direction. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. How are we gonna do this? I got one of them, okay. Ugh, I'm slimed, so I can't move. Oh my goodness. Okay, now we got the big guy. Ugh. Here. Oh my goodness, come on, come on. One thing I wish you could do in this game is like move while you swing the sword. Just a little bit would be nice. Okay, it's kind of working. Not perfect, but got this little guy left. And I gotta go fight some more. Did I get everything? Yes. Ashiruni, thank you for being first. Not posted due to conflicts with moderation sentence. Don't think that there'd be anything in there that conflict with most stuff. What, were you trying to post a link or something? Is that what happened? Because I gotta fix the moderation session settings if that's the case. Oh goodness, I'm like gonna die. Oh my goodness, no, I'm just out of here. I am out of here. Woof, woof. Woo, that was a close one. Okay, I'm gonna just go home. Not posted due to moderation, conflicts with moderation settings. Let me know what you were trying to post. Okay, donut economics, really good stuff. Really, really recommend it. The other things, there's a book that I really love called Surviving the Future. It is like kind of a dictionary or encyclopedia collected from this professor whose name I've forgotten, his works, looking at sort of all of these different economic theories and what we know about human psychology and like what we know about our needs and how we're going to deal with degrowth. He's sort of a big proponent of degrowth and just sort of putting it all together. I wonder if I used a keyword or something that triggered the auto mod. Yeah, okay, so about that, I have like 400 or 500 phrases that I auto mod banned or blocked just because I wanted to protect things, but I didn't block any like swears, and I didn't block any words for any sort of sex acts or anything. So I'm not sure what it would be. But yeah, maybe I can look in the records afterwards and tell you what, if it tells me anything. Okay. Sometimes I like get worried in this game that I'm gonna bleed to death or something because I see the little thing going and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta go and like heal. But then I realize it's actually gonna be okay. Okay. All right. It's almost 2 a.m. I'm gonna get into bed and hope to be pretty healed in the morning. Go to sleep for the night. Yes. No worries, Ashurani. I'd rather keep your protections in place and find a way to talk around them than cause issues. Yeah, it puts so many in place because we tend to want to talk about a lot of really sensitive topics, like even just talking about consent in general can provoke a lot of responses. And then also we're going to have a lot of people come on to talk about really big social issues. And so I was very like hardcore about the banned words list for the sake of trying to help and also lessen any work that the mods might have to do. But that also always means that some things get caught. Now, I know also Twitch has a lot of things they auto ban. But look at this. I'm level 2 in combat now. That's very exciting. I wonder why the sound's getting crunchy now. Hey, Ditubron, welcome. Is it gonna crunchy? Is it? We'll see. Yes. Yes. Oh yeah, that's good. That is a good gross sound. It's crunchy for sure. Okay. Well, it was fine until just now, but I'm gonna turn the sounds off. We don't need them. I mean, they're pretty cute, but like, oh, Demetrius. Hello, Ariel. I have some good news for you. A few days ago, I made a breakthrough in my research on the local environment. I'll spare you the technical. No, give me the technical details. I want the nerd stuff. And get to the point. You know that empty cave over there? A little ways to the west? Well, I have a way to turn it into something useful for both of us. I'd like to set up the cave to attract some local species. That way I can observe them in a more controlled environment and you can harvest whatever products they produce. I can either set up the cave to attract mushrooms or fruit bats. The bats will sometimes leave fruit for you to collect. Absolutely fruit bats. I don't know if you know this, but the mushrooms, generally speaking, seen as a pretty bad choice. Bats is the way to go. Plus, bats are super cute. Demetrius says, all right, I'll go set it up for you right now. It shouldn't take any time at all. Thanks for letting me do this. Yeah, you got to tell me the nerd stuff though. Ugh, I'm sad. I want the nerd stuff. You spare me the technical details. How dare you? How dare you think I don't want them? I need it. Give me your nerd information. Okay. Anyway, I mean, like, obviously, Demetrius doesn't have to tell me, and I'm sure he was just trying to be polite. Yeah, bats are like cats with wings. They're so cute. They're so cute. Even the ones that have like weird Nosferatu faces. I'm like, yeah, that's that is some evolution. That is exciting. Related, it's always really interesting to me when people will say that like some deep sea creature or something like a really, interesting looking bat, people will be like, oh, it looks so alien. And I'm like, what do you mean? It looks like something that's from Earth. It's this is what stuff from Earth looks like. It's very diverse and there's like so many different ways things can look. Not just people, like all the creatures of the planet. There's so much diversity of faces and shapes. And like, I feel like it's not like a judgment. I'm not judging people when they say that, but to me, it's more like an indication of how disconnected a lot of us are from just the tremendous diversity of nature. And it also makes me think of like these Twitter posts I have seen where people get things from like Chipotle and they get a bay leaf in their food and they think that somehow like a leaf, like from a tree that's not supposed to be in their food, got in there. And I think it's all part of this sort of larger disconnect that we have. And I think it's the same problem with economics. We've disconnected economics from physical realities to the point where we make these big decisions for the whole world that are completely disconnected from anything. And it's sad. Shiruna, you said, yeah, on the one hand, I'm one of those folks that also nerds out for technical details, but on the other, it places a lot of burden on the game's authors. It's true. It's definitely true. I mean, I'm obviously joking because, like, who knows what science that would even be. Like, I mean, obviously, it would be like biology of some kind or zoology or something. But yeah, I'm just role playing a little, I guess. Um, so, uh, other books that I really recommend. This book called Surviving the Future. Part of me wants to just get like some chapters from it and read them out loud on the stream, but I got to look at if that's allowed. I know that my friend Anna Geeks, you should also check out her streams. They're very adorable. She has lots of good baking stuff. Has read books out loud on stream before, but I don't know exactly how it worked. Because anyway, Surviving the Future just has a lot of stuff that's really hopeful, right? It's a very, very hopeful book. It's hopeful in a way that's definitely not what most people are thinking about when they think hopeful, because it does stress that like the world is going to change and what civilization looks like now is not what it's going to look like in the future. And we're going to have to make things that we view as sacrifices, but in the end are, depending on your perspective, not necessarily sacrifices. Siri, hello. The written work has to be in the public domain, if I remember correctly. Okay, that's good to know. Yes. So maybe I can get some experts because it's like educational use. And you know who I could ask about this? Academic Voxel would probably know because he is one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever met in my life. And he does a lot of like education streams. And so maybe that would work. And since we're a nonprofit, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, Ashurani, mycology and zoology, I guess. And yep, everything in our society is interrelated. Anytime you divorce something from the context, it creates a lot of issues. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things, even just talking about a totally different subject with appropriation, it can come out of a place of like love or appreciation or fascination or just being like curious about all of the different varieties that humanity can have. And yet, when you take things out of its context, things are definitely lost. For Reverend Mort, this is definitely related. Like an example I like to talk about a lot is contemporary psychology, especially sort of dialectical and cognitive behavioral theories of psychotherapy, they were created by a bunch of hippies during the sort of hippie movement who had exposure to things like Zen and Tibetan Buddhism. And they really, really liked it. And they kind of took it out of its context. They took out all of the religious aspects, though not necessarily because it was kind of all religion, but they took out a lot of the more overtly religious aspects, and they took out the overtly East Asian cultural aspects and kind of got it down to this sort of methodology that you could use for therapeutic practices. And it's incredibly effective, right? It just is incredibly effective. And also, I just want to say welcome to everybody who's joined today. I appreciate you being here, even if you're not participating in chat. There's no pressure, but you're always welcome to join the chat. Let me see if the bats are here yet. Oh, little eyes. Yes, little eyes. It's so good. So, Buddhism is sort of Colonel RPG, hello. Is sort of the origin of a lot of psychology and psychotherapy. And yet something has been lost. It's similar in like a lot of people will do meditation. This is like a thing I really... Oh no, now you feel pressure to say hi, Krellin. I'm sorry. Welcome, Krellin. Meditation, right? It's become incredibly popular for people to talk about it as like basically a DIY therapy. It's self-care. It's all of these things, really kind of a catch-all for everything. And I'm not saying that it's bad. Like, not all of you know this, but I actually am an ordained Buddhist monk. I'm ordained in the Shingon sect, Japanese Buddhism. I got ordained a few years ago after like more than a decade of training and study. And so like, I'm a big fan of meditation, like obviously. And part of how I got into Buddhism was wanting to understand the roots of a lot of psychology better, and then over time connecting with it more and more. That's not the only way, but it was part of it. Anyway, I'm going to say hello to the sad doctor dude. Harvey, it's okay to get a moderate amount of sunlight. Don't get burnt. Okay, take care and stay healthy. Yes. Hello, Aradin. So lovely for you all to be here. So anyway, people often think like meditation is going to make everything better, and then they'll do a lot of it and then be like, oh, why am I still feeling so anxious? What's going on? Why? Turn down the brightness a little bit. Maybe it'll help with the little bit of screen stuttering that we're getting. Not sure why it's, it was fine before. Yep, the polar bear is back to give me a hug. I actually have, as my chair, I have DX Racer because they actually make chairs that are for short people. It's very hard to find a chair where I, who's only 153 centimeters / 5 feet tall, can like truly put my feet on the ground. I actually still have to wear shoes to do it. I have like indoor house shoes. But I actually can have my feet on the ground. And I also had to pay a bunch of extra money to get a desk that went low enough too. But anyway, I love this chair. It's great company. They were very good customer service and everything. And they are good for short people. Oh, yes. Oh, ornamental fan. I'm going to go bring that to the museum. That sounds exciting. Yes. Okay, so people will do a lot of meditation and then they'll be like, why am I still feeling super anxious? Why am I not getting better? What's going on here? And that's pretty normal because one, a lot of people do very DIY meditation, which is not bad. Like you can do that. This is not a criticism of this. And people can find a lot of really like amazing self-discovery through these processes. And it's riskier. Oh no, I just missed the museum. Let me see. What do I have that could be good in the museum? This corn is necessary for the community center. Does Gunther want any of this stuff? Gunther wants one thing. Okay, that's fine. I'll go bring the one thing I have on me to the museum, or not the museum, the community center. So yeah, Aradin, you said, as my mental health counselor said, pills don't build skills, but they provide a buffer to allow you the skills you have used to have learned. Yeah, and definitely. And there are also people for whom, like, even having lots of skills and being very skillful, pills are still very important and supportive. Um, like, whenever I'm going to get a bad migraine, which is often because I have chronic migraines, I get really, one of the first signs is that I get really, really depressed beforehand. And it's not like a thing I can just sort of therapy and skill my way out of. So it's still very useful. And okay, I need 5 gold corn. I hope I can get that. Hope I can get that. None of these things. Fall crops bundle. We're gonna put a little corn in here. Nice. But it's not fall, it's just a crop that can grow in both seasons. Aradin, you said, I know that was true for me with the anti-anxiety meds I take. Yeah. You know, it's, I try very careful to not sort of speak in absolutes and make people feel judged for the things that they need or the choices that they're making. There are very few things that I'm very absolute about. Things like, you know, trans rights or just queer rights in general. Okay, he wants 30 copper ores. I might have those. I'll accept the quest and it will motivate me if I don't have them. I'll have to go back earlier into the mines, though, to get at them. Okay, so Buddhism and meditation and appropriation. Nazis are awful. Yep, that's one. That's definitely one that I would be like, I'm pretty absolute about that. I would also say I'm pretty absolute about, you know, a lot of things. There are a lot of things, but for the most part, I try to be pretty non-judgmental. Okay, I need to just make myself another chest at this point to put crops in that I'm saving for different reasons. Reverend Mart, to be fair, a lot of DIY mental health advice tend to lead towards silver bullet attitude. Do this one thing and all will be just, yeah, that is absolutely one of the big problems too, because especially when there's so many sources saying this one thing is the silver bullet, like just get more exercise or like prioritize sleep or, you know, eat these foods or don't eat those foods or like spend X amount of time talking to people, whatever. There's the list goes on. And then you don't see benefits that can make you really blame yourself and feel like you must be doing something wrong. And I always really, really worry about that, especially when it comes to mental health things. And it's just risky. So then one of the problems is people do this very DIY sort of types of meditation, and they tend to sort of mix up a couple of different types of meditation, like mindfulness or vipassana, sort of insight meditation, and also zazen meditation. Zazen is the very like empty mind, you try to just sit kind of meditation. Personally, I don't like that meditation that much because it's honestly just my default state of being. Not that I'm like trying to say that that's a good thing or like saying that, you know, I'm like a meditation master or anything. But like I've done a lot of zazen, and I find it's very like, that's just kind of how my mind goes. It's pretty easy for me to just kind of like be empty, but it's not empty in like the way we think of empty. It's like a Buddhist concept of emptiness. Anyway, people kind of mix that up with mindfulness and a couple of others, and then they're not really sure where to go with it, and then they try guided meditation and try this and that, and in reality, the way you'll get the most benefit out of meditation is for it to be grounded in a context. And the context doesn't have to be Buddhism. Buddhism is not the only religion that does meditation. There's lots of different types. But if you're going to do one of the Buddhist varieties, you don't even have to be a believer in Buddhism. This is one of the things that people also often don't recognize about religion, is you can be secular and religious at the same time. Kind of is hard if you're coming from a very Christian background. We tend to think of like, you either believe in this thing and the fullness of its doctrine and take it in many ways at face value, or you are secular. That's a very Christian concept of secularism. But I consider myself a secular Buddhist. Like, I'm ordained. Like, I helped run a temple in Seattle. There's not any temples in the Shingon sect outside of, there's some in Japan, China, and Korea, Hawaii, and then along the west coast of the United States, and that's it currently. Um, and when I lived in Seattle, I helped run a temple. I helped perform funerals and weddings, and I did weekly services, and I had really hardcore training and all of this. And, I don't necessarily believe every single solitary thing, and yet I'm very devout in my faith, and I'm very devout in my practice. And so getting meditation instruction that's grounded in the context of its origin is not mean you have to sign up for it at all. And I'm definitely not trying to convert anybody or push anybody to do this. I'm just saying that you can sometimes get better results with meditation if it's in a context of certain types of ideas and ways of thinking about the world. I also hesitate to say that when it comes to Buddhism, because a lot of people really like Buddhism when they think of it as just a philosophy and don't like it when they think of it as a religion, when it very much is a religion, fully fleshed out, fully developed, real religion with all of the problems and good points that come along with that. I'm going to put the other forageables in here. All of this stuff can go in there too. I'm going to save that. Okay. I should bring that to the community center. Anything else? Oh yeah, I need some of these things for the community center. Yeah, I'm going to bring those. Anything else in here need to go for tomorrow. So, and I'm not saying like you can't do this stuff. I actually have a C box right here. I've just been mixing everything around. That's fine. Muscles. Oh, okay. Now I'm not watching ads anymore. That was very rude of Twitch. I mean, okay, sorry. I'm gonna catch up with the chat. I was kind of distracted. Aradin, you said, yeah, especially dealing with mental health, everyone is different, and so have different things will help different people, especially when you deal with predatory people that kind of rely on that self-doubt spiral to get continual and repeat customers. Yes. Krellin, I'm going to assume this ad break will run without your consent. Yeah, I don't know how to not do it. I don't understand. Aradin, you can be more spiritual but not religious, which is what I would consider myself, and I am Christian. Was waiting for the ads to finish. Okay, now I'm not watching ads anymore. That was very rude, Twitch. Reverend Mort, I mean, most kinds of treatment or solutions work better when grounded in a holistic awareness of the situation. Yeah, I would definitely say that. And so with meditation, you'll tend to get the best results if it's grounded in the context of the ideas that were trying to be conveyed and the ways of thinking that created that framework of ways of looking at the world and interacting with the world. It does not mean you have to become a Buddhist by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that having the context will help. And this is one of the problems overall with appropriation, is because it takes things out of their context and something is always lost when you do that. The next thing I should upgrade is my axe. I think I'm going to just try to do that tomorrow because I'm pretty sure I've got 5 copper bars. Yep. And I should have enough money to upgrade it. Okay, Colonel RPG, you wrote, I grew up Catholic and letting go of Christianity-centered preconceptions is something that I personally treasure very much. Yeah, and it's tough to let go of the sort of like ways of understanding, not just like opinions or lack of knowledge about something, but the ways of understanding even the same word or concept can be really different coming from different types of countries or backgrounds or whatever. Reverend Mort, you said, but like most industries, there's the dominance of businesses that push the one-stop solution, be that just meditate or just eat tons of kale. Yeah, they're seductive with the low barrier of entry, and it's so destructive because it traps people who genuinely want to improve but zaps what energy they have. Exactly. Yeah, I love this discussion. I'm glad that we're all kind of on the same page about this too. I'm gonna take these uh, produce things and I'm gonna put them in the other chest. Gotta start to organize this chest more. Chest situation. What I'm trying to say. Got too many things. Too many things. Okay. All right. Basically out of energy for the day, so it's time to go to sleep. And an hour has already gone by. How in the world did that happen? How has it already been an hour? I feel like we just got here. Okay, so what was I saying? I do actually want to talk about the growth Ponzi scheme today and review some of the concepts that we've been talking about. Mildly perturbed spirits. Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. That's fine. No problem, spirits. No judgment. Look at all this harvesting. Yes. Yes. I'm so excited. So many tomatoes. So good. It's hard to resist the desire to like just save everything I grow because I'm like, oh yeah, I can make so much pizza with these tomatoes. Speaking of which, I'm gonna have pizza tonight because yesterday/today is the 8-year anniversary of my partner and I dating. We've been married for years since 2018, but it's the 8-year anniversary of us dating, and it all started because I invited him out for pizza because I felt bad because I hadn't replied to any of his emails because we'd been like chatting about philosophy and like concepts and stuff like that, and I did this really nerdy thing I tend to do, which is I sent him like several gigs worth of books, and then I was like, "Let's talk when you've read these," because I don't know, I get really enthusiastic. Anyway, it was fine. It was fine. But I felt really bad because I hadn't replied to his messages, and then like he had sent me these really thoughtful replies, and I got really intimidated by them. And I was just like, damn, I want to like have good conversations and connect. And when I really care about something, I can get really intimidated by it because I want it to be perfect and I really want to put all my effort into it. And I can get kind of in my head about like, what does that look like? Am I actually going to be able to achieve that? And then never start. It's a pretty common problem, I think. Yeah, so then I invited my partner out for pizza, and here we are. Been together for many years. Oh, thank you for the congratulations, Reverend Mart. Um, yeah, it's like, I will say, kind of as a consent related thing, I really took that idea when I was a kid that relationships take work to heart, but I kind of misunderstood it and as the idea that relationships should feel like work, which I understood should feel kind of bad. Like it's always going to take this kind of work and it's going to feel like labor and it's going to be like struggling, but that's what you have to do. And then I got into this relationship and it clicked in my head finally. Oh, relationships take investment. They shouldn't make you feel like shit. And then I'm happier than I've ever been. Okay, so the growth Ponzi scheme. We were talking about earlier how a lot of city planning is done with the very modern economic philosophy and perspective of the idea that growth can just continue forever. I mean, the planet is pretty finite, so it definitely can't continue forever. I guess maybe there's the assumption that we'll like colonize other celestial bodies at some point, and I say celestial bodies instead of planets because I think some people also consider the idea of like colonizing asteroids and moons and things like that. Um, Actually, I'm going to sell some things before I go over to Clint. I'm going to sell some stuff. Sell these blueberries. And wait, do I need that for the quality crops bundle? Hmm. Hmm. No, I don't need it. Okay, so I can sell my tomatoes. Nice. I'm gonna sell that one too. Okay. Okay. Um, So there's this constant idea of like just infinite growth being possible. And a lot of city planning is done with that in mind. And since World War II, city planning pretty much everywhere in the world has become incredibly car centric, which is assuming that cars are sort of the default mode of transportation and that that will always be the case and that more and more cars will always be being bought. And yet, um, Reverend Mort, yes, not unrelated to the fact that we're taught work should feel like shit, which is not great. Exactly, it's not. It really shouldn't feel bad. Upgrade tools, copper axe, yes, very excited for that. Hopefully I'll be able to unlock the secret woods thing. I'm gonna go bring some stuff to the museum. I'm very excited. Museum time. Museum time. Okay, donate to the museum. Okay, and now I'm gonna go to the community center and put more things there. It's so productive today. Anyway, there's this idea that we'll always be using cars, and that was a huge policy decision that started after World War II. Some of it was because of, during World War II, a lot of countries built a lot of factories to make heavy machinery and things for the sort of war machine and then we needed to recoup sort of the costs and the investment of these factories, and then selling them to auto manufacturers was a really like sort of good way to do that. And let's see here, river fish bundle. No. Where do I need to put this chub? Where do I put the chub? Not the specialty fish. Definitely not the crab pot, but I could put a mussel here. I'm only one away from completing the crab pot. It's very exciting. Ocean fish bundle, no. Lake fish, no. It must be night fishing. Where did the chub go? Said that it was needed for this. I'm so confused. Y'all, I'm so confused. Maybe it's in the community board? Could be. Could be. Certainly not here. Let me look. Let me look. Chef's bundle. No. No. I can do this one though. Yes. Yeah, here it is. Oh man. I know I have one of the frozen geode, so I only need a purple mushroom to get the field research bundle. That's actually pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited about that. Field research and then dye bundle. Yeah, here we go. Nice. Nice. Okay. So we've made these decisions. I think that the current, massive spike in gas prices should be pretty indicative of the fact that we're probably not all going to just use cars always and forever, right? Like, we couldn't keep going if everything stayed this expensive. Do I have enough money to buy an apple tree? I forgot to bring copper to Clint. Yep. Let's see, do I have enough money to buy an apple tree? Do I? Hopefully. I do. Yes, I'm doing it. Yes. Yes. Very excited. So it's important to know that like this was a policy decision that made it so that our cities are so car centric and our towns are so car centric. And it's also a constant is a very cute woodpecker. Constant decision to not further invest in things like public transit. A lot of people, for example, think that traveling by bus is somehow kind of gross. And that's partially PR stuff. That's partially like that messaging being put out there. And buses could be really nice. They could be just as nice as traveling by train. And yet, we definitely don't have the kind of investment that would make that true. Okay, so eventually I kind of want to have an orchard, and I think I'm gonna put it like right here. That looks like a nice place. Yes, hello little tree, you're so cute. You're so cute. Okay. Yeah, partly to get people to buy more cars. Exactly, Aradin. Krellin, what did you say? You said my condo complex is car centric. There's only one way for a pedestrian to leave the complex, but three ways for cars to do. Yeah, that sends a lot of messages about who is considered to be the default in these spaces and whose needs are going to be prioritized. Basically, if you don't have a car, sucks to be you. I'm gonna get my fishing rod. I'm gonna do some fishing. That sounds like a nice way to spend the time. Yes, fishing. Fishing, fishing, fishing. So then there's lots of different ways to organize cities and towns. And if you think about some of the places that have the nicest quality of life, part of what's really core there is that they have really good walkable cities and towns. Even small towns have a nice downtown area with lots of small and local businesses and lots of like community and ways to interact together that aren't necessarily even just spending money. This is also one of the big things is like, in a lot of the ways we've organized the world, it's very hard to do things outside of the house that don't require you to spend money. In fact, sometimes it's impossible depending on where you live, except for like going for a walk, which we've talked about in a lot of cases is not safe, like stroads. Stroads are things that are in between streets and roads. They're meant to move a lot of traffic from one area to the other, a lot of cars very quickly, but they also are trying to be like replacing town centers. And so there'll be a lot of stores along the sides of them. And a lot of space is taken up to giving cars easy ways to get in and out of the stroad itself. The thing is, though, is pedestrians and cyclists die at the highest rates going along these because if you don't have a car and there's no public transit and you need to get from one area to the other, then you have no choice but to walk or ride a bike along these areas. And they're very dangerous because they often have no sidewalk or the sidewalk is not consistently there and cars are going incredibly fast. It's very much meant for cars to be able to travel quickly between towns and different areas. And so stroads are really bad. And they also don't tend to really support businesses long term because stroads, and this is where you'll find a lot of big box stores at the end of or on the outskirts of a town along a stroad. They have tons of parking. They really assume that you're going to drive there. And then you don't really have many other choices because you risk dying if you try to get there any other way. And then it's just dangerous. It's just dangerous. I will read what you said after I catch this fish, Reverend Mart. Okay, what did you say? As someone from a country with solid public transit, yeah, buses can be just as nice and practical as trains, more so even. Yeah, okay, this is a point. Buses in many ways can be superior to trains. It tends to be the difference between how far are you trying to move people and things, how much are you trying to move, and how fast you want to move it. But one of the big things is once you lay train tracks down, whether they're subway, streetcar, light rail, Amtrak, whatever, high speed rail, it's very costly to move them. Whereas a bus can just change its route. If you're dealing with electric buses that are going along wires, there's some infrastructure that needs to be there, and things like bus lanes can be really helpful. But buses are fundamentally a much more flexible and adaptable form of public transit that can adapt to the ways a city's or a town's needs change as the population shrinks and grows and shifts and different needs are created. You can't get as much of that with trains and subway. There are benefits to subway. And I love trains. Like trains are amazing. I've definitely gone to just go see trains in person before because they're really cool and I really appreciate them. And buses are also really underappreciated. I just need a drink for a second. Give me a second. I'm really thirsty. One of the things that's really interesting, though, speaking of like Europe, North America sort of divides, is I've seen a lot of YouTube videos that are, why am I leaving? I'm still fishing. What am I doing? That are talking about problems with roads and problems with infrastructure in the US and Canada, especially um, of North America. The US and Canada is generally what I'm talking about, though not exclusively, because Mexico has a lot of the same infrastructure things, though Mexico City's public transit infrastructure is nice. What was I going to say? A lot of people from Europe will like really be envious of how wide and like beautiful and accessible and like car centric things are, how wide the roads are. But sometimes I think about just like even in a city, how much space we cede to car infrastructure, right? Like how much of our public land we're just giving up to cars that could be used for other things, for parks, for playgrounds, for, community centers, for like public squares where you could have free concerts or events. I mean, it's very anti-capitalist to think of it this way. But anyway, the thing is though, is we got to think about long-term resilience. People really, really have a lot of enthusiasm for electric vehicles, and it's not yet sure if those are actually really a lot better for the environment because there's all of the mining and the materials and the waste and everything. It's not just about carbon footprint. And also, Jerry, I see you said something. Our city is in a strange place where we're trying to add in light rails that can access historically Black communities, but because the infrastructure wasn't built for it, it will also displace Black-owned shops to widen roads. Yeah, that's not a surprising problem. And I'm almost out of energy. This will be my last fish. Be my last fish. Yeah, yeah. That's really sad, though, that it's going to displace the people it's claiming to try to help. And may even just encourage gentrification because the property values along public transit lines, especially trains, tends to go up a lot. And then that can price out the very people you're trying to help because we have so little public infrastructure, right? If we had, I'm going to say hello to Sebastian, future husband here. I'm looking forward to the cold, damp season. I feel more at home. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Reverend Mart, you said, though, as someone who has been to America, I feel like the youth of American cities, the way they're structured, and the rapidity by which they grew exasperated and enabled it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And, I think I've talked about before, like the American highway system was originally designed to move military infrastructure quickly between cities. A lot of the world's national highway systems are designed that way. And Ronald Reagan was the devil. Did a lot of eminent domain to pull from Black communities to build the national highway system, which is just rude. Just rude. Saving all these fishies because I imagine I'm going to cook them at some point. We will see. I got some food to put over here. Yeah. Okay. Gonna put away the copper. I'm gonna put this kelp away. Let's not forget the leveling of Toontown. Are you referencing Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That is awesome. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is genuinely an amazing movie. If you have not seen it, I absolutely recommend that you do. Level 6 farming! What? for On Tour, Ziri has only top tier references. Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, I can make a hardwood fence. I can do a new crafting recipe, cheese press, and I can make quality sprinklers. What do I need for that? What do I need for that? Reverend Mort, older and more organically growing urban sprawl can't be adapted to modern tech as fast, which can be good or bad, but in this case, car is definitely good. Yeah. It's a balance, but if we think about the fact that we may run out of cheap and plentiful energy at some point, and we are very, very likely to do that. Let me see. Mildly annoyed spirits. Okay, but let me look at the crafting. What do I need for these sprinklers? Gold bar and refined quartz. Oh boy. Okay, well, that's quite the challenge. Quite the challenge. Yes, you see all of this? Yes, look at all the sweet peas and all the grapes. And I'm just watering the ground for no reason. Yes, look at all of this. Hatter Haver, hello, welcome to the chat. I enjoy consent education. I enjoy education of Reagan's evil, and I enjoy Stardew Valley. This is the content I crave. I'm so glad. Thank you. I try. I try to be offering something unique on Twitch as well. There are lots of people who do like variety streaming and chats and stuff. And I'm trying to offer something new. So yeah, Reagan is the devil. I mentioned it last time in the really great TV show, The Boondocks. They reference that Ronald Reagan also has a middle name that has 6 letters, so his initials are 6, 6, and 6. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you think I'm succeeding. That makes me so happy. Yes. Why can't I move? Oh, my hand is on the wrong part of my keyboard. Yes. I'm a very skilled gamer, elite, you could say. I've been a gamer since I was a small child. Spent tons of time. And I also don't put my hand on the keyboard correctly a lot of the time. Reverend Mart, you said, it's hilarious to think that the road by our train station is older than America as a nation. Wow, yes. Aradin, the only person that would say comes close would be Trooper, though his is generally more music focused. Yeah. Krellin, it's Wilson, by the way. Reagan's third, second, 6. Thank you. I did not know it was Wilson, but yeah. Okay, so the growth Ponzi scheme, right? So the thing is we've been talking about how big box stores, they make a lot of money and they double dip in terms of taking from public money because they don't tend to pay a lot of taxes, certainly not very much in property taxes when we talked about sort of value per acre in previous streams. And they also tend to require a lot of infrastructure to be built to service them, which they don't often pay to maintain. And the thing is maintaining water pipes, sewage, electricity, internet lines, just the roads themselves, the street lights, all of that, sidewalks. It's incredibly expensive and difficult to maintain all of that. You also have to take care of things like the trees and the other sort of plants that grow along the roads and the power lines and everything. And you have to be able to account for all of that. And if these big box stores, especially, are just benefiting from all of that and paying very, very little in taxes, and also usually paying people below a living wage, making them also need to benefit from tax money to supplement, they're like triple dipping in terms of profiting off of public money while contributing so little to it. And as I've mentioned before, when a big box store comes to a town, usually the net income in that town goes down on average because they're so terrible at how they pay people. It's really, really frustrating. I'm gonna put this food, and I've got all those like leeks and horseradish and stuff in there. I'm not very good at organizing this quite yet, and I haven't really focused on it. What am I gonna do with the rest of my day? It's only 10 a.m. It's Unhappy Spirits Day, And my axe isn't ready, so I guess it's more fishing. I'm excited for fishing though, because it's pretty great. Let's go do some ocean fishing. Haven't really done much of that. Um, yeah, around. And why do I always go the wrong way? It's because I shifted my fingers. Yeah, so big box stores, right? They're just they kill local businesses. They are very extractive. They just extract all the value out of a community, and then they tend to leave when there's no more, and they don't have to do anything. They owe nothing to the community that they were serving. I mean, in terms of like what we can enforce, I would say that ethically they owe a lot, but we can't actually do much about that. And so they can just take up this valuable land, really exploit it, and then barely pay taxes, and then leave when it's no longer suiting them. I forgot. I should have kept my hoe. There's a bunch of wormies out. Anyway, and it really just then is like ad time again. Okay. Hmm. Can you all hear me during the ads? Okay, are the ads over? Over now. Okay, we're back from ads. Alrighty. I need to turn those off, I think, because they kind of disrupt the flow of everything. They all had some interesting ads, and it's funny to see some of you getting ads for things that are very relevant to the problems that we're talking about. Um, yeah, it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Walmart. Ugh. What is a good word? Absolutely nothing. I like it, Krellin. I like it. Okay. And so I want to also give a shout out to the two YouTube channels and websites, Strong Towns and Not Just Bikes, because they created a lot of content that I've learned a lot from. Um, Krellin Barandri had 5 ads. Okay, sorry. This is the first stream I've done since I finished the like paperwork for things, and I will figure out how to turn these ads off if it's possible. I don't actually know. I hope it is because yeah, yeah. Anyway, um, so some settings. Okay. Okay. Good to know. I'll turn them off. Okay, let me look at my notes. I have a lot of notes on why Joja Mart sucks. I have this whole document. I just want to take a second to remind everybody about like kind of the general idea of what makes a community healthy is yeah, did you run? I think ad blockers can be useful. So healthy community doesn't just mean quality medical care, but it's also reflected in social and environmental factors that promote well-being, like health services, public education, arts and culture, civic engagement, community services, housing, public transportation, employment, healthy and safe physical environments, recreation and opportunities to socialize, all of this kind of goes in. And if we think about it, a lot of these big box stores actually actively hurt a lot of those things, as does a lot of this um, Uh, oh, Aradin, you say I can change when the ads run, i.e. at the start, midstream, and at the end. Yeah, maybe I could leave them on it for the end. I don't know. We are nonprofits. We do need to try to get revenue, for sure. But I also care about the experience everyone's having here. Yeah, capitalism is inherently anti-community. Absolutely. Ashiruna, you said it is possible to turn off midstream, but if you refresh or are just joining, you're almost always going to have to watch one unless you're subbed. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, so here are some of the reasons why. Oh, no problem, Shibron. It's okay if you need to leave. Yeah, so for everyone else who's here, we have about 30 minutes. I might go a little longer than that. I hope you have a good day. um, so here, some of the other things I want to talk about. Let me zoom in on my notes so it's easier to actually read them while I'm streaming. I keep trying to like multitask. It's a little difficult, a little difficult. Um, so let me get down to the point about the growth Ponzi scheme. I keep saying scream, and I'm like, that's not the word. Scheme. Um, anyway, okay. So a lot of cities do keep growing, but they also keep going deeper and deeper into debt all the time. And we have to think about why that is. There's a great paper from the Bank of England about money creation in the modern economy, which is about most new money is created through the creation of debt, and the paying off of debt destroys money. And yet, if you can't pay back your debt, that's a bad thing, right? You can't default, especially if you're like a government, or I'm gonna pour myself some tea. I scream. Oh, you scream. We all scream for Ponzi schemes. Yes. So the thing is, though, is like, say you're a town and you want to build some new roads and put down pipes and um, put in street lights and run power lines and maybe even like internet cable and all of that stuff. And you also need to make sure that it's like well connected and that it's not going to be in a floodplain. I mean, if you're doing good city planning, we can think about how a lot of, we've just destroyed a lot of riverbanks and stuff, and so there's been lots of flooding, which is also a consent issue because if you don't know that these decisions are being made or you're not being told of the impacts that they're going to have on the things that you're voting for in like urban planning or the city council or whatever, you don't necessarily know that like it's basically been designed to maximize profit in the short term, knowing that if there's ever a hurricane or like a huge storm, your whole area is just going to get washed away and you're left to deal with that. Because a lot of people don't have flood insurance because it's incredibly expensive and hard to get. And so it mostly hurts the poorest and most vulnerable people. And it's a big consent issue. The sort of just deforestation and destroying riverbanks and all of the sort of like ecological infrastructure that's there to like keep them from breaking over their banks and to make sure the ground can actually absorb the water better versus the ways it's often set up now where it doesn't have anywhere to go. And there's so many problems. Aradin, you said, especially if they're connected to some construction companies that could make money off that kind of disaster. Yep, it is all genuinely connected, and it's all a big consent issue and an autonomy issue, and just being able to make choices for your own life and know about the decisions that are being made on your behalf or that are going to have impacts on you. After I want to read your comment, Krellin. Another comment I want to make on capitalism, it's likes to pretend it's all about consent and open exchange, but in reality, it isn't built entirely on coercion and exploration. Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums up the whole point I'm trying to make a lot of the time. Very well said, Krellin. Good job. I like that. Yeah, I think it definitely is pretends to be really focused on these things. And then if you look at the way it actually operates, it's clearly not. Yeah, big problem. So a lot of towns, they just go deeper and deeper into debt. So they're building lots of roads and development projects, but still going broke. And the person who does the strong towns, oh, I'm in the way of. How am I always in the way of Willie? Every time I come fishing here, I just manage to stand in his spot. I don't know why. Okay, so the guy who makes strong towns, he's basically one of the people who uncovered this Ponzi scheme. So really, again, shout out to Strong Towns for being amazing. So there was a kind of strange thing that's been happening is cities and towns all over the United States and Canada are on this path to decline. Yeah, Krellin, it is a good spot. And it's all kind of stemming from how we've done development, right? We talked a little bit about the sort of suburban experiment. And after World War II, there's all these different experiments that were happening everywhere for designing different ways cities could sort of be built, and also the ways in which you could have different suburbs, and the ways in which the suburbs and the cities could be interconnected and relate to each other, and what kinds of people live where and how you organize them. And this all, all of this like policy stuff actually has a huge impact on what the lived experience of being in this. I'm out of energy. After this fish, I'm gonna have to eat some kelp. Aradan, you said, we're doing this to help you and make your life better, but actually it's all about enriching corporations under that guise. Yep. And, Canada and America picked a main way of designing cities that is really different than the way a lot of other places in the world do it. It's not unseen other places, but it's just particularly the brand of way of doing things in Canada and the United States. And we can talk about this more in depth in other episodes when I have notes for that ready. But it's become clear that American systems of growth and development, are really just not sustainable and are kind of broken. And Reverend Mart, capitalism is entirely non-coercive as long as you pretend all actors are entities that have no needs and infinite time. Yes, yes. Yes, and that there aren't actually like barriers to things, and like people aren't lying, and yes. Yes, yes, yes. So one of the other things I really want to stress is that because there are a lot of problems with how America does stuff, it's really incentivized leaving America. And now, please recognize I say this with full awareness of the fact that I'm an American citizen who lives outside of the United States. So, like, I'm not going to be sort of judging anybody, right? None of that hypocritical nonsense. Because I recognize this even in myself, which is that, like, people joke now that the new American dream is to move someplace else. And also for jobs and for the way we've organized the world currently, you basically cannot usually stay in one place for too long. It's not the same of like me and my whole family have lived in this town for 10 generations, and like maybe we've moved a little bit, but we're all still pretty nearby. Like the building that I live in here, the owner of the building lives next door to me. Her sister lives directly above me. Her mom lives on like the ground floor, and like a bunch of her cousins and her aunts and uncles live in this building, and they just rent out the other spaces. But fundamentally, like the whole family lives in this one apartment complex. They don't necessarily interact or see each other all the time, but they're still pretty close by. And we really don't have that in a lot of the world anymore because capitalism demands that we move for employment. That's part of why we're in Austria, because this is where my partner could get a job after finishing his PhD. And what that does though is it creates really low incentives for us to stay in any one place for any long period of time and actively try to make it better, to actively invest in it. I know I mentioned on the last stream that Seattle really struggles with this, with most residents of Seattle only live there for 5 years or less, like on average, because people come, for a job, and then once they've kind of like moved up the ladder of that job enough and it's time to move on, they leave. And what that means is, though, is like all those people are voting in the local elections and they're tending to vote for things that are really going to benefit them in the short term and are not being considerate of like sort of the long-term health and stability. Toronto, we lived there for 5 years exactly. Yeah, me too. Literally 5 years. And then I was like, okay, I got to move to this other city. I cannot put kelp in there. Nope. But can I put grapes in there? Yes. I gotta make some more jelly. Do I have any other things I can put in there? No. Yeah, 5 years. Yeah, and I mean, that's basically just how it works out. But think about what that's gonna do to the city over time, right? Like, this is a pretty recent trend, but think like, 10 years, not 10 years, like a couple decades from now, what kind of city is that gonna become? Yeah, and Seattle's housing issues are becoming worse too. Exactly. That's part of the problem. So there's very little incentive for any of us. Yes, level 5 fishing and not trapping because crab pots are terrible. Fishes are worth 25% more. Krellin, you said Cheryl managed to stay there for 17 years, but recently had to move too. Yes, Cheryl, for all of you who don't know, what is it? Used to be Muppet Aphrodite, but is now like Funny Godmother instead of Fairy Godmother, Funny Godmother. Also an amazing human, very talented. I recommend. Yeah, Funny Godmother. Thank you, Krellin. Um, yep, and but it's eventually you have to leave for work because it can become impossible to stay in one place for very long. Okay, very happy spirits. All right, we're going in the mines. That's what we're doing. I'm gonna water my plants. Oh, my farm is gonna be featured. Hmm, interesting, interesting. Okay, that's cool. Oh, alrighty, got blueberries to harvest. Guess I can water the plants since I accidentally started. I can water some of them. So there's very little incentive. Yeah, you lived, Barontor, you said way out in Linwood, almost Everett. Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to afford Seattle. Um, get some really dubious situations too if you want to try to afford living there. Um, so, not having incentives for people to stay and make places better is really dangerous long term as well. When there's not this investment in the community, when people don't have a sense of responsibility to each other, belonging, investment, mutual dependence, even though we are often genuinely mutually dependent. And when I use the word community, I always am trying to imply that idea that it does include mutual dependence. A lot of people use community very loosely, and the way I saw a lot of people in Seattle using it without necessarily realizing they were using it that way was just to mean people that they spent money with and like did a similar activity sort of nearby. And I would say that like sure you can use it that way, it can be sort of whatever, but for me community has at its heart this idea of interdependence and shared sort of values to some extent, and also just sort of like this idea that your fates are kind of tied together, and therefore it necessitates some amount of acknowledgement of each other and working together and actually being invested in each other. And I didn't really see very much of that in any of the sort of scenes or subcultures I was a part of in Seattle. There was very little of that like sense of we owe each other things. And I brought that to like the swing dance community there, and I was generally treated like I was insane. And like People just thought I was out of my mind. And the drama related to that is genuinely still ongoing because I was like, hey, we should have some kind of standards of like behavior in the swing dance scene. And like, there are tons of predatory things happening here, and we shouldn't wait until they become like huge harms and issues where like the only thing we can do is ban somebody. Like, we should try to, that's just tragic, right? It's just a tragedy. We should do other things. And yeah, people are still mad about it. That's just all I'm gonna say. People are still big mad uh, about my opinions. But anyway, uh, life is interesting. It's always surprising the twists and turns that it takes. I'm gonna put this little fishy guy in here. Whatever. I'm gonna put my fishing rod. I got it. I'm going to the mines. It's a very happy spirits day. I'm so excited, and I'm not gonna forget to bring my sword and my pickaxe and some food and some torches. That is essential that I have some torches. It cannot be like last time where I was just like, doop, 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 just going. And then I got there and I was like, welp, that's unfortunate. I got some food. It's pretty good. Where did I put the torches? Are they over here? They are. Yay. Okay. We're going to the mines. Let me organize my inventory. Going to the mines. Yes. Barantor, you said that is interesting. I wonder what is the desperation of folks that like that in Seattle, as far as where the greater Seattle area they are. How much does downtown change compared to satellite areas? Like, we lived way out in Linwood, almost Everett. I missed what you said earlier. Okay. I just realized that I was rereading something that I missed earlier. Preventative measures. Nah, yeah. This is one of the things, is like, people really were just like, you're some kind of feminazi, and like, why do you think? And I was just like, I'm literally just trying to do some harm reduction and like take some responsibility for the spaces that we create as leaders, and like, fine. Ugh. Anyway, you know, it's fine. I don't live there anymore, so I don't have to deal with it. But that's also part of the problem. It's like, if we don't have that ability to have that staying power to continue to invest in these things, it gets really hard to make any kind of lasting change in terms of like community resilience and health and stability. And yeah, Arad, and how dare you make us feel bad about what we do and how we think. I wasn't actually trying to make people feel bad. I was just trying to say, like, what if we had the hard conversation when it's easy, rather than waiting until we're all panicked because some big, important, beloved, famous person in our scene is like outed as doing really horrible things to people again? Like, what if we just tried to prevent this kind of thing from constantly happening, or like decided how we wanted to deal with it when it was easy, rather than waiting until we're all like sad and emotional and stressed? And yeah. Anyway, this is also part of the idea that's a problem in a lot of the infrastructure issues and the things we've been talking about with Joja Mart, is that like there's this real problem with certain cognitive biases, like normalcy bias, which is people having a hard time imagining that things can be different than they are now. We saw that a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. Like, at the beginning of the pandemic in like early February, I was saying to the people of the swing dance nonprofit I was a part of that we should cancel our big summer event. Like, we should stop spending money and paying for things and investing in it, because there was no way it was going to happen. And everyone thought that I was out of my mind. They were like, what do you mean? Like, it's going to be over by then. I was like, I don't think so. It's a pandemic. It's going to be really hard to control, and it's going to go on for a long time unless we get really lucky. And now people recognize that, but it's still some of that where people think, oh, we're going to just get back to normal, rather than the idea that like things might actually be different in any kind of long-term sense. Like, people are like, okay, yeah, well, we'll just live with COVID. It's fine. But forget that, like, in some cases, 1 in 3 people end up with long COVID. even people who did not necessarily have very symptomatic COVID. And it's hard for people to imagine these kinds of things because we have, and this is not me judging people, it's really not. It's just me saying we've got these cognitive biases that make thinking through things in ways that are helpful and effective sometimes harder because our brain is trying to take shortcuts that we have no control over in order to process all of the information we're taking in all of the time, right? I really also want to just always stress that whenever I have these points, I'm never judging anybody. Like, there are very rare cases where I judge people, like very rare. I was going to make a joke, but then I was like, I don't even want to joke about it because I just really don't. Okay, lots of messages. Okay. Reverend Mart, trying to affect people, including men's ability to prey on other people, including women in this space, equals feminism. Trying to impede a person's ability to violate another is really just trying to restrict their choices. National Socialism. Yeah. I'm not necessarily like restricting choices in those cases, but more just saying like, how do we help prevent harm through the kinds of structures that we create? Like, if we constantly have an issue where, like, older, more seasoned, famous, internationally famous dance instructors are going to these big events that have teenagers at them, or people who are very young, who are new to the community, who don't necessarily know a lot about the norms, don't even necessarily know what is they can say yes and no to. And the instructor says to them, oh, hey, come back to my hotel room and I'll give you a private lesson, and then assaults them. And this is an ongoing and constant issue. It does make sense for the organizers, even just from a pure liability standpoint. And this is how I often got people to think about it, was being like, well, we got to reduce our liability of being sued because we know this is a problem. And by not doing anything, we're facilitating it happening. Saying, we should just put in our code of conduct that says you're allowed to give private lessons, but you have to let us know who you're giving private lessons to while you're at the event. And then also, you have to do it in public spaces. Please do not bring attendees back to your hotel room that are not people you already have established friendships or sexual relationships with. That's usually what I said. It's like, when you're here in a professional work capacity and we are paying you to do a job, don't hit on your students or try to sleep with them. If you're really interested in that, wait until you're no longer in a position of power over them in this context, and then see if they're like, slow it down a little, or like, you're here to do a job, please do a job and not use it as your sort of cruising grounds in that sense, because it's too risky, because you've got all this power over, and because of the differences in the amount of information and knowledge that people have, and big age gaps, which also does not have to be non-consensual, but it does increase the risk. And then Aradin, you said, especially given, I'm guessing, they are very likely the ones that aren't going to have the real negative outcomes. Yeah. And then Krellin said, live with COVID doesn't mean live exactly like we did before COVID, except now COVID happens, right? But that's how a lot of people are changing it. Living with COVID, cholera meant changing all of our sewage systems. Okay, this is sarcasm, to be clear. Okay, I will admit, Reverend Moore, I tend to have a hard time recognizing if people are being sarcastic, and I tend to be like very earnest when people say things, and I'm like, yeah, like I'll respond to this really genuinely, and it gets me into trouble. But I still hope that I gave a good answer. Because in the end, people still have the freedom to tell us no, and then we would just say, cool, well then we're not going to hire you for this event. Like, you can continue to do whatever you're going to do, and you can continue to teach how you feel is appropriate, and for the standards we want to have at our event and our space, we would not like this. And it was not to say that like you couldn't be a teacher or a DJ or one of the live musicians and go and have a really good time and like have sex or whatever. We would say things like, if you have a pre-existing relationship with somebody, that's not off limits then. Like, it's just establishing new ones in this context is too risky for us, and we don't want to do it. And we always said, like, you can say no, it just means that we don't want to hire you in this case. Ashi, oh, I got more chat to read. Y'all are so participatory today. It's so nice. Not to mention, there's the marked brain damage tied to COVID, which we don't know whether it's permanent or not. So, except it is until proven otherwise. Yep. And the fact that there's massive increase in cardiovascular issues and so on, COVID is a lot nastier than just a regular cold. And yes, I totally agree. And I mean, I've already got heart problems and a bunch of other health issues. And so I'm like still terrified of getting COVID. Reverend Mart, agree with the sentiment, but the sad fact is that there are so many people in positions that like that are loath to recognize their own power and the possible inequality of it. Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things in our consent and leadership series that we're about 2/3 of the way through right now, and then we'll start teaching it again in June, but at a time that's like mornings weekday in America for Europeans to be able to take them on weekdays. And then we'll have it again at like an America-centric time in the fall. We spend a lot of time just getting people to come to feel and recognize and embrace their own power and to not be afraid of recognizing that they have it and to look at ways to empower and to have power with rather than power over. And like there are structures you can create that can facilitate that. And it's also one of the things that we can do in general with how we organize things like cities and, the health of a community is just like, how can we do more power sharing instead of power hoarding? And how can we have power with rather than power over? And also encourage empowerment. And so that's like we have a whole class just on like accepting your power. Okay, Aradin, you got 1 30-second ad this time. I don't know if y'all missed what I was saying or if it just plays it back fast. I don't understand how it works. And I'm getting no notification, but I'm doing this through OBS, so I don't know if there's something I'm missing or whatever. Oh yes, the stairs down. Krellin, you say ads are over. Okay, cool. Yeah, so just in case you all missed it, I was talking about how in our consent and leadership series that we teach is basically a leadership skills series, but also helping them think through like how can they help, make a healthier community or whatever. And it doesn't have to be like an official position of leadership you're in either to benefit from it. Okay, I got muted and moved over to a small corner of the screen. Reverend Mort, you said, I don't think I've ever seen something as destructive to growth as the discomfort of those with some less than total but still significant power feel over having to reflect and recognize their power. Yeah, I mean, in our classes, generally speaking, one, the people who sign up to come to our classes are usually fairly open-minded about these things. And two, we try to approach it in a way where like, we're going to help make your life less stressful in the long term. And like, this doesn't have to be scary and we're in it together. And also we take a very like student-centered approach. So it's very much like we're learning together rather than having power over. And one of the classes is really focused just on dealing with power and like coming to terms with the fact that you have power, even if you're in an informal position of leadership, even if you're just someone like that people like and know and trust in your community, or you're a volunteer at a door and people don't know that you're just a volunteer and don't actually know what's going on, or like you're just someone who's holding the clipboard. Like there's all these ways in which we give power through symbols and whatever. I don't think I'm gonna make it to 50 tonight. Let's see. I'm gonna eat the survival burger. Let's see if I can power through and make it down. And I'll finish out this day before we end today. And I'll definitely see about turning off the ads because they seem sad, or making it so it's like just at the end of the stream. I'm not sure how we can do that. I'll play around with it. So anyway, we haven't even really gotten to touch too much on the growth Ponzi scheme because we just had so many good conversations. But I promise in a future episode, we will talk about it in depth. I know I've been doing a lot of review too because I really want these ideas to feel, yes, I made it to 50. What am I going to get? Tundra boots. Let's see. Let's see. Tundra boots, 2 defense, 1 immunity. That's definitely better. I'm so excited. Yeah, so, I'm going to leave the mine. The growth Ponzi scheme. I do want to talk about it a little bit before we go. I just really enjoyed the chat today. Y'all have been so delightful to interact with, and it's been so much fun to share ideas and get to respond to the things that you all think and go through questions. Could I sum it up as infinite growth inevitably moves to Thanos? So it's more like a lot of American cities and towns are going to go bankrupt and collapse financially in the near future because they need to pay for the loans that they've taken out, but they're often not getting enough in taxes and revenue. And remember, we talked about how like a lot of money comes from the Department of Infrastructure and Transit, and there's like local government stuff, but then a huge chunk of it tends to come out of cities, towns, municipalities taking out loans, and they have to pay back those loans eventually. But the thing is, if you're not increasing your revenue, or like getting more tax money, and like a lot of the businesses that come in pay next to nothing in taxes in general, you're going to be unlikely to ever be able to pay off that debt that you've accrued from taking out all of these loans. And then what ends up happening is a lot of these towns, to prevent themselves from defaulting on their debt or going bankrupt, end up just taking out more loans as a way to finance more projects, thinking, oh, eventually people will come. Eventually we will grow. And it'll be better. Level 4 in mining. Yes. Excellent. 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 I actually do want to get into, and hopefully next week, some of the actual details of how we can see this growth Ponzi scheme happening. Because it's not enough for me to just tell you, oh, this is happening. Like, I actually want to give you some data so you can know about it, because it would be really good for you to be able to check and see, is any of that happening where you live? Even if you're living outside of the US, because it could be, because this is becoming increasingly common. And if it is, it helps you know, like, likely things are going to come to a head down the road, and it's going to be really hard on the town or the city or whatever. And I can make a glowstone ring. That is so exciting for next time. And I can make these sprinklers now, but I don't have any of the materials needed to make the sprinklers. All right, well, thank you all for joining me today. This has been really lovely, really fun. You've been so wonderful in chat. It's been really awesome to just have this interaction with all of you and get to, share ideas and talk about these things. I'm glad that a lot of you were new in chat, and I love getting to interact with more of you. Yeah, thank you all for being here. And I will talk to you all on Sunday. So Sunday from 10 to 11 a.m. Seattle time. And that will actually be, instead of 6 p.m., I think it's going to be, or instead of 7 p.m., it will be 6 p.m. in Europe, because Central European time, because daylight saving time doesn't start till the 27th, but it already started in the US. So instead of being 9 hours difference, we're only 8 hours difference. And if you've enjoyed today's stream, check out some of our other videos and see if you like it too, and consider following or subscribing. If you liked what we did today, also consider checking out our Patreon, where we post exclusive content and early access to things, and it's going to grow more and more. You can also consider making a tax-deductible donation. We are a 501c3, so whatever donation you make to us, you can get a receipt for it, and you can write it off on your taxes and everything. And yeah, just thank you all so much for being here, and I hope to chat with you on Sunday.